Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Well, today I'm going to take a look at how to set up and how to play the absolutely marvellous game Ostia. And here it is. This is a game for 1 to 4 players, which will take perhaps an hour and a half to 2 hours to play, depending on your player count, of course. Now, don't be alarmed by the size of the box or by its slightly longer play time on the box either. Don't be alarmed, it's not as hard to learn as you may think from its size. And in fact, once you start playing it, it all clicks together rather wonderfully. And the rule book is very good and there's loads of reference material in there. So plenty of information in there for you to look up should you need to in the game. Well then, without any further ado, let's take a look at how to set up and play this wonderful game. Okay, let's take a look at how you set up Ostia. Well, it'll come as no surprise that you lay out the main board onto your table. And then you will place a number of building tokens equal to the number of players into each of the building spaces as indicated on the board. So I'm going to set up a 2-player game, so I'm going to put buildings in each of the top 2 spaces. And each space shows you the type of building that goes there. So for example, these would go here, but I could leave them laid down just for the purpose of this video. So again, as I'm setting up a 2-player game, I can place these here. And I'll continue throughout to set all these up. Then you will take the trading port tiles, and these come in 2 slightly different colours, as you can see. These are the initial placement ones. These are shuffled and placed randomly onto the initial placement areas, which are indicated by the colour on the board. And then you take the remaining trading port tiles in this colour, give these a good shuffle, and again randomly place these out onto the remaining spaces, and put any remaining tiles back into the box. Next you will take the 4 discovery tiles with this image on them and place them onto the indicated spaces on the board. Just like that. So for the remaining discovery tiles, based on the number of players, take a certain number of tiles from the unplaced remaining tiles as indicated here. So for 2 players, we will need 3 each of these and 2 of these. And we'll shuffle these discovery tiles and then randomly place them face up on the corresponding spaces on the main board. These spaces here, marked with the 3 or 4 player, are not used in the 2-player game. So there we go. Next we'll take the transit tiles, shuffle these up and place them randomly onto the spots on the board. And next up, shuffle up the destination tiles and place them randomly onto their positions on the board. Next we will take all the order cards, which have this back and look like this, and give these a good shuffle. Again, set these up near the board and draw the top 4 cards from the pile and lay them out so that everyone can see them. And this then becomes the order row. Finally, for this part of the setup, we place all 5 honor cards face up next to the main board. So these cards here, you would place them next to the board, like that for example. And now we'll go on to the player board setup. Each player receives 1 Ostia port board and a construction shipping track board. And then they choose a colour and they take all the pieces of that colour. So this will be 14 Kobita tokens, 3 Ponta tokens, 7 construction discs, and 1 reward token. Now the main part of your Ostia port board is divided into 6 sections. We have a sea area in each section and a resource area as well. And what we would do is we would take our Kobita tokens and place one in each of the 6 sea regions. Then we would take an initial placement card, which have these backs, and we would randomly give one of these to each player. And we would place 1 additional Kobita token into each of the spaces indicated on the card. Finally, we would take resources from the central supply and place them into each resource area. It's important to note that the top area here, the top left, is not associated with any type of resource. Therefore, no resource cubes will go there. Next, we'll take a construction disc and place one on each of the tracks. And we place our remaining ships on the squares then. So we would place this one here, then a Ponta ship, as indicated by the spaces on the board. And with the boards set up, we will have 3 remaining tokens which we will finish setting up on the main board. So the first thing all players do is put their Kobita ship token into the starting space on the Ostia main board. Each player then places their reward tokens on the square marked 0, and then starting with the first player, which you pick randomly, that player receives the first player token, and the first player will not change during the game. So starting with the player to the right of the first player, players will take turns in counterclockwise order, putting a construction disc onto an initial trading port tile, which is one of these 4 here, that does not yet have a construction token on it. So, for example, this player could place theirs here, and we could place ours here. Each player then takes one of the buildings from that space, so we would take these 2 buildings, and we would place these on the initial building spot on their Ostia port board. And for all players, they would place their building here. Okay, now we've got the game set up. Let's first go through all the components so that you get a better understanding for when I go into how to play the game. This is the main board of the game, and this is the board that all players will share. Players will also have their own player boards. Every player will start off with a Kobita ship token in this area, and the idea of this part of the game is that you'll be moving your ship token along these routes to get to these end locations here. These 3 will score you points at the end of the game, shown by this little half moon icon there. And this one, the first person to get to this one, for example, anything with a lightning bolt will trigger straight away. And how these spaces work is the first person to get to them will place their ship token at the topmost spot, and they will gain that effect. And then after that, every other person will place their ship tokens underneath, gaining a lesser effect. Now in this example here, the first person here would gain 3 of these, and these are reward tokens, which will mean you'll be going up on this reward track. For example, if I was to get here first, then I would go up 1, 2, 3 on the rewards track. On the other hand, these will give various victory points at the end of the game, depending on the number of buildings, the number of these tokens and ship tokens that you've collected in the game. So obviously you'll be wanting to get across the board to get here before anyone else to get the more beneficial result. Now as you move, it'll cost you 1 point to move from one zone to the next. When you land on these particular tiles, and only when you land on them, you will gain the benefit of them. So you would gain 2 wheat resource there. Now there are these little discovery tokens, and if you were to move past a discovery token, you can see the dotted line there, then you would pick that up and gain its effect. And these are immediate effects shown by the lightning bolt, and this would give you 2 coins immediately, and you would keep this token for end of game scoring, which will give you an icon there to use at the end of the game, and that's an exotic animal token. Now unlike these spaces where you have to stop on them to gain the reward, you gain the discovery token simply by passing them. Now you will notice at the beginning of the game, each player set their construction discs onto one of the initial starting tiles, and this allowed them to take a building and place it onto their starting location on their player board. Now on future turns, when you move, if you move on to a different tile, you gain the ability at some point on your turn to be able to put another construction disc out and then take the building and place that onto your player board, which will give you certain advantages then throughout the game. So in this example, I would place my token there and take this building and place it onto my board. Now you can only construct a building if you have reached that particular token. So if I wanted to construct this building here, now I have no ships on this route, so I can't construct a building here. However, on future turns, hopefully I could get another ship out, in which case then I still can't construct here because I haven't reached that location. So on a future turn, if I moved here, then I would be able to construct there on another turn. Now having constructed these buildings, it will mean that you will gain certain effects during the game, and it all depends on what tile you have built on. But just to give you an idea, this allows you, when you're doing the trade action, you can exchange gold coins and receive wood up to a maximum of 4 times. This one here, you could exchange 2 gold coins and receive 3 stone, again up to a maximum of 4 times. You will see some of the tiles may have the lightning bolt symbol on them, and building here would instantly get you 2 rewards on the reward track, whilst other tiles will score you points at the end of the game, shown by the half moon token. So that's how the main board works. Let's take a look at some of the other components, including the player boards. Okay, because I do not have much space where I do the filming, what I will be doing is I will be putting my player board onto the main board here, just so that I can film and show you what's going on without having to pull everything apart and reset everything up. So you wouldn't have your player board on the main board. So let's take a look at the player board. Well, as you can see, this is your port in Ostia, and as you can see, it's split into 6 different zones. This zone here will produce permits that allow you to sail your ships on the main board, and the number of permits you require to sail the ship certain spaces is given there for you to see as well. For example, if I wanted to move 2 spaces, I would need to pay 2 permits. Now this zone will allow you to build ships, and this produces wood. This zone produces wheat and allows you to fulfill orders, where you'll be supplying food to the citizens and nobles. This allows you to build. So this allows you to put construction tokens out onto the main board and then take the buildings that you will place onto this board in certain locations. And if you notice, placed your first building there, but subsequently you can place buildings into each of these locations, and they will give you certain benefits. For example, This will instantly give you a reward when you place a building there. On this side, normally during the game, you can spend 3 coins to gain any resource. If you put a building here, it will only cost you 2 coins going forward. And the other icons give you varying rewards based on their location. For example, when you're doing a building using stone, for the building here, you'd pay 1 less stone. And you pay 1 less wheat to fulfill orders here, and you pay 1 less wood to build ships, whilst this one would give you an additional order and an additional wood in this area. That's the player's Ostia port board. Now this is the construction and building track board for each player, and during the game when you take the shipbuilding action, you will start at the lowest point and you would be able to build a ship for 2 resources, and you would take that and place that onto your board. And in the same way, whenever you want to construct a building, then you would pay the cost to the left. In this case it's 2 stone, and place that onto the main board and take a building then to place onto your player board. And if you do an action that has got that icon on the side, that will gain you a reward on the reward track. And there you go, that's the construction building track board. Now these are the order cards that you will be using your wheat to pay for when you supply Ostia with food. And each card has a value in the top left hand corner showing the amount of wheat you need to pay to take the card, and this shows you the reward that you will gain when you take that card. And the rewards are amphora tokens, which you place onto your player board, and they will score you points at the end of the game. You also get to immediately have the effect of whatever is printed on the card. In this case, if you paid 4 wheat, you would get 1 of these tokens, and you would also gain a permit. Or if you paid for this one, you get 2 permits. Now you would keep these cards and use these icons at the bottom as part of a set collection scoring mechanic at the end of the game. Now sometimes the cards will have an additional payment requirement there that you can pay if you want to. Now you could just pay the 5 wheat and gain 1 of these tokens and activate the card as normal. Or you could pay the 5 wheat and also 2 stone, and that will gain you the extra token in the top right hand corner there. Now these are the honour cards, and these will be placed on the table for everyone to see, and the first person to achieve the honour will take the card and they will score 12 points at the end of the game. And in order to do that, they have to meet the requirements on the middle of the card, and they have to pay 4 gold to pick up the card, and they can only do that whilst they are performing the trade action as indicated by that icon. And they are quite straightforward. For example, the first person to have 4 or more building icons visible on their construction track will have the opportunity to be able to take that card, and the first person to reach 5 or more points on the rewards track will have the opportunity to take that card, and so on. And with that, let's jump into how to play, and hopefully that will make more sense for you. Now the goal of the game is to simply get the most victory points at the end of the game. So we have 2 things here. We have rewards and we have victory points. The table to the right of the main board, this keeps track of each player's reward status. And each time you gain a reward, you will advance up on this track. And at the end of the game, you will earn victory points for your building icons, your ship icons, and your amphora tokens, based on the position of where your reward token is. So if the game ended here, I would be getting 9 points for my building icons, 9 points for each of my ship icons, and 7 points for each of my amphora tokens. So the more rewards you earn during the game, the better your victory point scores will be. And 12 is the highest a player can go. And if a player ever gets another reward at that point, they simply ignore it. And for the gameplay, you and the other players will take turns in a clockwise order, starting with the first player. And you'll do this until the end of the game is triggered. Now, the end game is triggered when one or more of the following conditions are met. Any player's reward token reaches the 12th square of the reward track. 3 or more Kobita tokens from any one player reaches the destination tile. All Kobita and Ponta tokens are removed from any player's shipbuilding track. All construction discs have been removed from any player's construction track. And all Amphora tokens are taken from the common supply. And if you remember, we started off on a 2-player game with 14 in the common supply. And when any of these conditions have been met, the game continues until the player to the right of the first player completes their turn. And if the player to the right of the first player was the one who triggered the end game condition, the game ends at the end of that turn. And then you will perform final score calculations. Okay, on to the gameplay itself. Well, there is a turn flow. And on your turn, you must perform all 3 of these phases in order. The first is the selection phase, the second the production phase, and the third is the action phase. So let's take a look at these in order. Okay, first the selection phase, and all you have to do is simply choose one of the 6 locations on your Ostia port board that contain at least one of the ship tokens, either the Kobita ship tokens or the larger Ponta ship tokens. So, for example, I could pick this location here as my selection phase. Then you do the production phase, and you would simply count the number of ship tokens on the sea area in a selected place. And during this part of the phase, each Ponta ship, when you manage to get these off from your player boards, they will be worth 2. So they'll be worth 2 ship tokens, whereas these small ship tokens are 1 ship token. So if I've selected these, I've got 2 ship tokens here, and I would take as many resource cubes from the common supply as the total number of ship tokens and place them into the resource area of this section. So as I have 2 ship tokens, I will simply place 2 resource cubes there. Now if you notice, each of the sections of your port board, excluding this section, is associated with a particular resource. So, for example, this is permits, this is wood, this is wheat, this is stone, and this is gold. So in my example here, I have produced 2 more wheat for a total of 4 wheat. And these resources we will be able to use in the game. So now we go on to the third phase, which is the action phase. And we would take all the ship tokens from the area that we selected and place ships one by one in each sea area clockwise from the next section until all ships are placed. So I pick up the 2 ships here, I place the first one here and the second one here. And then we perform the action in the corresponding area where the last ship was placed. So we would perform the action here. Now all the actions are optional, and sometimes you may not be able to perform an action if you do not have enough resources or do not meet the requirements. And once the action has been resolved, your turn is over and the next player in clockwise order takes their turn. Okay, let's take a look at the actions in turn then. This action here, which is the move action. And when you perform a move action, this will allow you to move your Kobita tokens on the main board along a connected route. But first you need to declare the number of movement points that you are going to use. So for example, at the top of the board here, for example, if I don't spend any of the permits here, I can move my ship 1 space. So for example, I could move my ship token here, or indeed I could move it here. Now I could instead, I could spend 2 of my permit resources, which I have here, and I can move 2 spaces instead. So I could, for example, move here to here. Now there could be occasions where you will have multiple ships on the board, and you can split these movement points up among your ships, and that's movement. Now if we take a look at this space here, which is shipbuilding, and when you perform a shipbuilding action, you're going to be strengthening your fleet by building new Corbita and Pontana ships. You can build new ships from the bottommost available. So for example, in order to build this ship here, I would have to pay 2 wood resources. So I could take 2 wood resources and return them to the supply. Now, if it's a Kobita token, you immediately place it in any of the sea areas on your port. And from now on, this will act just like the other tokens did. So I could put it there. Now, if on my turn I landed here, I've got 3 resources, 3 wood resources, so I could build a ponta. Now pontas work slightly differently. Now I would have to pay the 3 resources and then take the ponta. And then what you would do is you would immediately replace this with one of your existing Kobita tokens. So I could, for example, I could replace it with this one. And from now on, this is worth 2 tokens. So in this area here, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 ship tokens worth. And you would take your Kobita token and you would place it into the starting area on the board. Now you can only do this provided you have no Kobita tokens within this dotted line area, and I'll show you a picture of that area now. So in my example, I have a ship here and that's my only ship on the board. It is outside of this area, so I can buy and build this token and place this here. Now the next action is the order action, and this allows you to supply food to the citizens and nobles, earning victory points and resources. And when you take this action, you will follow the 4 steps. You will choose a card from the order row near the main board and pay the amount of wheat indicated in the upper left hand corner. So for this example, you would need 5 wheat in order to purchase this card. And if you notice, there's an additional resource shown underneath the wheat icon, and you can pay these extra resources to earn more. If I pay 2 stone as well as the 5 wheat, then I will get both rewards indicated in the top right hand corner of the card. So what I would do is I would pay either the 5 wheat or the 5 wheat and 2 stone and take the order card and place it in front of me. And then from the common supply, take as many darker coloured amphora tokens as shown in the top right and place them on your amphora token space on your Ostia board, which is here. Now if you paid the additional cost, then you will get the lighter coloured icon as well. So if I did pay the 2 stone, I would get 2 amphoras instead. Now you also gain what's indicated in the centre of the card. So in this case, I would gain 2 stone, which you would place here. And as long as you have enough wheat, you can continue buying cards from the order row. And the order row is not immediately replenished. So the most cards you could get in one action would be the 4 cards that are face up. And at the end of the action, what you do is you replenish the order row by drawing order cards from the deck until there are 4 face up cards there. And you will keep that card because it's got a nobleman or a noblewoman icon at the bottom, and they will affect your final scoring. Now let's take a look at the build action here. Now with the build action, you can establish a base for yourself in the initial trading port tile or trading port tiles on the main board and place building tokens onto your Ostia board. So just like the shipbuilding, you would build starting from the bottommost one, which will cost you 2 stone, and you will get to place this onto a trading post tile. Now you can only place 1 of your construction discs onto each tile, and you can only place your construction disc on a trading port that your Corbita has already reached. So if in the game I wanted to build here, I can only build here if my ship token is there or has passed through that trading port. So if my ship was here and I wanted to take the build action, I would pay the 2 stone, and then I would place my token there to indicate that I've built. Now, if, for example, I wanted to build at a trading port where another player has already built, I can still do that, providing I've reached or passed that point, by placing my token on top of theirs. But in this case, every player who already has their construction disc there, they'll receive 1 gold from the common supply. So in this case, the blue player would get 1 coin from the common supply. Now, each time you place a construction disc, you will take a building token from that area, and then you get to place it onto an empty area of your port board. And these may give you ongoing benefits during the game. For example, if I was to build the building here, then this action, whenever I perform it, it will take 1 less wheat. Now, this action token is your trade. And when performing a trade action, you can obtain resources by using the trading port which already has one of your construction discs on. So, for example, I could take this action here up to a maximum of 4 times, and I could convert a coin into a wood. So I could take these 2 coins and convert them into wood. You may also take honor cards if possible, and each honor card has its own requirements. And you can take an honor card by paying 4 gold if you've met the requirements of the card, and place the card in front of you. And you can take multiple honor cards in 1 action, and you can take honor cards even if you have not activated any trade action effects. Now finally we come to the administration, and as we've said earlier, there are no corresponding resources. Instead, it can be used to efficiently perform the other actions that we've looked at. So when performing an administration action, you follow these 2 steps. The first action step is you may choose any one of the following actions: the move, shipbuilding, order, or build action. Their icons are indicated there as a reminder. You cannot perform the trade action in this step. And then you take an executive action step, and you will take all of the ship tokens from the sea area in the section corresponding to your administration action, and you will place these tokens the same way you did at the beginning of the action phase, 1 by 1 in the sea area of the next section in a clockwise order until each of the ship tokens have been placed. So I will pick these up and put a ship token there and a ship token here. And then you can perform the action corresponding to the section where the last ship was placed, following the normal rules. And indeed, if you did happen to be placing ships and they come all the way back round to the administration action, then you would get to perform that action again and move any ships that are in there along, activating another action. Now, at any point during the game, you can pay, as a free action, 3 golds from the common supply to acquire 1 resource of your choice other than gold. And this is indicated here. And if I had built a building here, then I would be able to get this ability by only spending 2 gold instead of 3. And that can be done as many times as you wish. That is what you will be doing in the game. You will be building ships that will be sailing and gaining resources as they head off to their destinations. You will be building buildings and placing them to give you access to cheaper resources or cheaper actions. All the while, hopefully, you will be claiming possible resources that will move you up onto your track on the right hand side of the board that will indicate what level of points you will be scoring at the end of the game. Now, after the game ends, each player needs to check how many buildings, ships, amphora tokens, wild animals, exotic animals, noblemen and noblewomen they have. And you'll be counting all these visible icons. So you will gain victory points from each of the following. So trading port tiles. You'll gain benefits from the end of game effects of the trading port tiles with your construction discs. Some of these tiles will give you additional icons and some give you victory points directly. Then you build in icons, ship icons and amphora tokens. And you refer to your position on the reward track and you will score victory points with your building icons, ship icons and amphora tokens. Next, you will gain points for sets of icons, and you gain 12 victory points for each set of 4 icons. 1 wild animal, 1 exotic animal, 1 nobleman and 1 noblewoman icon. So for every set of 4 of those you have acquired during the game, you will get 12 victory points. Then you will gain victory points from the end of game effects on the destination tiles on the main board. Finally, you will gain 12 victory points for each honour card you have. And the player with the most total victory points wins the game, and in the event of a tie, these players share the victory. Now, one thing that is really great with the rule booklet is it clearly lays out all the icon types for you as a nice, easy reference. And this explains all the different building spots and what effects they have during the game, and then you get the details of all the trading ports. That's the initial trading ports and then the main trading ports, and exactly what the transit tiles will give you. These are very straightforward, and what the discovery tokens will as well, and then what happens with the destinations. And then these are the honour requirements. Now, there are solo rules for the game which I haven't tried out yet, but I definitely will be giving them a go at some point. Well, there you go. I hope this little overview will help you get up and running on your first game of Ostia. Well, there you have it. That's how you play Ostia. And it is, I have to say, an absolutely marvellous game. We really did enjoy playing this a lot, in fact. As I said earlier on, it's a lot easier than we first thought when we first seen the size of the box and all the different moving parts. But it was an absolute delight to play, and the rule book was really rather good. And as I believe I said in the video, I'm quite looking forward to giving this a go solo as well. Not that I do many games. I really don't have that much time at the moment to play solo games, other than a few small ones here and there, but this is one I definitely would like to give a go. And indeed, if any of you out there are interested and would like to know how the solo version of the game works, then why not let me know in the comments below, and I'll see if I can do a further video on that. Well, if you can hunt down a copy of this, I really would encourage you to do so. It really is a great game, and is currently #1 on the Board Game Geek hot list. Wow, #1! Wow. So clearly there must be a lot of talk about this game at the moment, as I know their Kickstarter is currently fulfilling around the world. Now, they are one game company that I will be keeping a close eye out for future campaigns, because not only am I interested in the games that they got developing and will be coming out, but also joining in on their crowdfunding campaign allows you to get some of their previous games, such as the rather wonderful Aqua Garden, another brilliant game, and one I've covered on the channel. If you're interested, please go and take a look at that. Well, I do hope you found this video useful and you hopefully enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting the old like button, and also please consider hitting the subscribe button too. That would be absolutely fantastic of you if you could do so, because it would really help to grow the channel. And in the meantime, as always, thanks so much for watching. Please do take care, and bye for now.